Hello everyone, I hope you're keeping safe and well. Don't knock me for my hair. I haven't got anyone to cut it yet and I'm refusing to get a buzz cut. I hope you're all well. What we're going to do on this channel, firstly, apologies I haven't been on it for ages. I got in a routine of doing video verdicts and then we had no games. So I haven't done a video on here since the Sheffield United defeat in March. So maybe I will address that over the coming weeks. But what we're now looking to do, you may or may not know, I host the On the Ball podcast, which is the Norwich City podcast on The Athletic. It's great. We've done some brilliant interviews over the course of lockdown. And we also do regular podcasts with Steve Sanders, who's NCFC numbers on Twitter. Also Ben Mouncer and Stuart Hodge are on regularly too, and all sorts of other people as well. So check that out if you haven't had a look. There's also a discount through the podcast so that you can read The Athletic for free on our 90-day free trial as well. So lots of good stuff. And we've been doing lots of that over the course of lockdown. What we're going to try and do is bring you some of those bits and pieces on this channel over the coming weeks. And then obviously once the football restarts, we'll see how we deal with that with video verdicts. But the idea is that you'll have a bit more content, and I have been planning to do other videos as well. So therefore, to kick that off, I hope you enjoy this. This is a snippet from the On the Ball podcast we recorded earlier in the week. It was with me, Steve Sanders and Ben Mouncer for the first time in a long time, because we have been doing a series of interviews with Russell Martin, Andrew Crofts, Adam Drury, Simon Lappin, Dean Ashton as well, and Steve Morrison. So loads of great ones. I've done another one actually that'll be coming up. So there's loads of interviews for you to listen to. But for the first time in several weeks, we thought we'd actually get the regular podcast crew together to have a chat about the current situation in football and take some of your questions. So here's that clip. I hope you enjoy it. If you want to find out anything more about what I do for The Athletic, then you can check out theathletic.com, add a /Norwich pod to the link, and you'll find your free trial there. I think that's quite enough plugs. Enjoy the podcast video, and I will see you over the coming weeks here on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for your support, for your subscription, for your comments. Please drop those in and I'll have a look at those and interact where you would like me to. And maybe we'll have some football back soon. But in the meantime, I hope this keeps you ticking over. Eddie, there's lots of E's on there. Hello, Eddie. Suppose Norwich go down with another two clubs among Aston Villa, Watford and Bournemouth. Which one of them would be your top contender of going straight back up next season? I mean, your first issue there, Eddie, is you haven't included West Ham.
If we do the weighted points per game that the League Two has done, West Ham get relegated.
West Ham getting relegated, which, I mean, seems to me probably a fairer way than straight points per game.
Oh, it's definitely fairer.
It's all screwy, really. But there we go.
Are
we all assuming, all these clubs will surely be worse off than Norwich?
It's such a difficult. I mean, it would be a difficult question to answer anyway, regardless of all the other uncertainty. However, I suppose you're here to ask the difficult questions. I think that we will be in a good position. This isn't really answering the question. I think we'll be in a good position if we do go down, regardless of who we buy and sell. But it will be very difficult to emulate the season that we had. Very, very difficult. And if I had to pick one of those, I think Watford would be good. Yeah, I'd say Watford under Pearson, I would think would be strong.
Yeah, if they kept their current managers, then Villa, Watford, and Bournemouth have all got managers who have won promotion from the Championship in recent years. So, yeah, I'd agree with Steve. Watford
be a strong Championship. Leon Ferreira Smith, I hope I said that right. Leon, do you expect Norwich to have to sell players at a lower value to cover the cost of the loss of revenue? And would you be in favour of a top 6 Championship and bottom 6 Premier League mini tournament to decide who is in the Premier League next season? I mean, I love the idea of it, but I think that would be carnage and would never get a go ahead. But it sounds like a brilliant tournament. What a load of fun.
Sounds like the sort of thing you simulate on Football Manager, maybe, but as for real life, definitely not.
I saw someone suggest on Twitter that the top 3 in the Premier League and the bottom 3 in the Premier League and the top 3 in the Championship should play each other in a playoff, which would mean West Brom, Villa, Norwich, Leeds, and then whatever the other one was. I think it was Bournemouth, someone else, Fulham. can't remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, can you imagine Norwich Leeds in a promotion relegation playoff?
I don't think I mean, and playing that in an empty stadium.
Yeah.
I don't think I could take it, to be honest.
I mean, one of the big things they said about the Bundesliga, one of the big positives was that fans didn't gather outside the stadiums, right? But I think if that happened, I think we'd see some Leeds fans in Norwich and sadly some Norwich fans who make the trip up to Ellen Road.
That argument is not a proper argument for a game that doesn't really mean a lot. It's when the games mean a lot that you're going to get a load of fans turn up, because that's just what will happen. There we go. We did the first part of the question as well, that Norwich sell players at a lower value. I mean, we had a chat with Norwich City's exec committee a few weeks ago, and they were adamant, and Stuart Webber who said it, that they don't have to sell as things stand at the moment. Obviously they're facing possibly losing up to 35 million quid, possibly more, depends what rebate broadcasters ask for, depends if the season completes or not and to what degree. So there's so many unknowns, which is why Norwich have furloughed and why they haven't dealt with player deferrals and wage cuts, because they just want to know what the whole is before they start asking for that sort of stuff. But to me, it's not necessarily just Norwich's influence on that, is it? Because who's going to have 40 million to suddenly bid on Emi Buendia if there's no money in the division, which is a possibility, because a lot of clubs are facing losing a lot of money.
Quite. I mean, it is a good question from Leon, but to me, it almost feels trite to be talking about what our players are going to go for when you've got clubs further down the scale who might be going out of business, and we're talking about whether we can get an extra £10 million for Emi Buendia. Personally, I mean, again, no idea what the finances are like at Norwich. I'm not worried about us, because I think we have budgeted for the Championship, which obviously now looks like much more, is looking more and more like a sensible move. And we may have lost 35 million. I think the difference between staying in the Premier League and going down to the Championship would be much, much more than that. So I trust the club to have got their finances right, and I think we'd have the assets to sell if we needed to anyway. The answer to the question, I don't know. I think, to me, it would feel like Stuart Webber would probably try and hold out for as much as he possibly could still. That's my feeling on it.
It's really interesting, isn't it, with how the rest of football's impacted, because I've not really bought into this whole, the Premier League's got loads of money, so therefore bail everyone out. Because the problem with the Premier League is they spend all the money they get, and most of the time they spend more than all the money they get, and their owners top it all up. So it's kind of a slightly redundant argument. I mean, if Norwich sell a player for 30 million quid, do they immediately have to pay back what they've taken in furloughing their staff, for example? Does that happen? And also, in terms of how that would look publicly as well, does that suddenly become a major issue, even if they've got a 35 million hole to fill?
Well, the furloughing thing doesn't entirely sit easy with me, to be honest, because I mean, we're talking about a club that makes millions and millions of pounds, and I appreciate the reasons for doing it, but I agree. I think that could look. I think once this all gets back up and running again, I think the way that could look would not be great, and I'm not necessarily sure I agree with it.
It's a difficult one. I agree with you, Michael. I think it's one of the sort of biggest falsehoods that every Premier League club is sort of swilling with loads of cash just sat in their bank accounts. It's the wages that are the biggest thing, and for all the TV money that they earn, most of that money goes straight back out in wages and bonuses. So really, I do understand, and I completely understand why Norwich just stuck to their guns with the furloughing thing. I also understand why bigger clubs who have extra financial support that Norwich simply don't have reverse decisions, and rightly so. But I think, I'm sort of I can understand the move on that one.
Imagine if you've been working in the press office now, hey Ben, you'd have been
busy. Yeah, spoken like a true press officer.
I'd have had to have arranged FIFA tournaments and things like that. So I'm glad I'm not.
Well, yeah, that wouldn't have been your bag at all, would it?
Great fun. Here we go. Here's a good one. James Barrett. Not saying that the last ones haven't been good, by the way. James Barrett, with no fans in the ground, how would you create a good atmosphere before the game? Now, I mean, I have to say, even with the Bundesliga, they were playing, stuff over the PA, and I was like, well, this is a bit optimistic because why are you doing that? Goal music. Goal music.
Yeah, goal music. Your classic kind of pre-match playlists, I think, would sort of stay the same, especially when the players are out doing their warm-ups.
For the journos as well. I mean, we need that. We get confused otherwise.
But having been at, for example, like reserve matches and under 23s matches in stadiums where there is no crowd, that kind of music definitely does sort of make it a bit more of an occasion, certainly. So I don't think there's any harm in doing that kind of thing. Obviously, you wouldn't have Adrian Forbes sort of rousing the Barclay with 3 minutes.
I think we should. Okay, if Dortmund can celebrate in front of the wall without people in it, I think you should have Adrian Forbes on a mic without anyone in the ground.
What about the Zorbs? Is it Zorbs they're called?
Yeah.
Oof, yeah.
But there'd be no one in them. They'd just be sat there, sadly.
No, but they're socially distant, like
they are
activity, that aren't they? Like
as long as only one person goes in them.
Maybe all Premier League players should like be in Zorbs for matches.
Maybe. We're not far off that. Let's be honest. Why not? We still have the fireworks.
We could always. We could always ask our friends in Suffolk what it's like trying to generate an atmosphere in front of the fans.
There it is.
Easy.
Sorry,
open goal. Even.
Could we have some kind? Is there any kind of electronic device that could work a clapper? Bring those clappers back, and there'd be no chance of anyone hurling one at the manager this time either. So if ever you're going to use a clapper, now's the time.
Well, I mean,
I don't know, just a hand that can waggle it about so it makes a noise.
What about this? You get every fan who would normally be at the game to record themselves singing on the Ball City, and then you play all of those recordings at the same time before the game.
Oh, no, that's a lovely idea. And you've steered me away from talking about the dolls they were using in Korea and what you could get them to do with electric clappers and stuff. So moving on quickly from that. There's a few good ideas there, I think that's good enough. We didn't really talk. I think we sort of touched on neutral venues. I think that's kind of a redundant argument now because everyone's so keen to play. It will be interesting in terms of players coming back. This is the longest. I was speaking to Paul Warne because we've been doing a weekly column with Paul Warne, who's of course a Norwich City fan, but rather a manager, and he's saying it's the longest his players have been off basically now. Normally in the summer they would have already been back a couple of weeks for pre-season, so unless you're injured you wouldn't normally ever be off this long. So I mean it's going to be really, there's obviously already concerns about how long they need before they come back and what state they'll be in, and also what injuries they might pick up from what's going to be quite a condensed load when they do come back. It's not like they're going to be eased into it, and they're not going to have any friendlies to play to get them up to speed, so it's going to be quite a challenging circumstance.
What I do know is there's been a lot of sort of competitiveness between the sort of sports science team, certainly at the highest level, around who can design the best programs for players who are trying to basically maintain a Premier League level of fitness from home. So maybe the teams who have designed the best programs will have a slight advantage at the beginning. I don't know if obviously we talk about fine margins at the top level, that could be one of them. But yeah, obviously there's the argument that it is the same for everybody, but we will see.
Chris Domagala, I think he would pride himself on nailing a good training plan.
Yeah, they've had to be very innovative because obviously people on their own, inside, and I'm sure sometimes as well, trying to keep levels of fitness up that they would usually do by some quite high intensity kind of exercise in groups is, that's definitely a challenge. And there will have been some who have organised that better than others.
Mm.
I kind of like our chances on that. I don't know. Somehow I see us as being fairly innovative on the fitness front. So hopefully we've come up with something that no one else is doing to give ourselves that edge.
The greatest escape. I'm going to keep talking it up. It's my job.
The little miracle.
This is. Right, it is at this point that our favourite Scottish commentator / sports journalist, Stuart Hodge, would interject with a Hodge spot, but alas, the man himself is waylaid. However, he has released the following statement. Ben, can you read it to us? Would you mind?
Yep, I can, and let me just put a disclaimer here that the following views are not my views necessarily. All the views of anyone else representing the Athletic. But here we go. This is a statement from Stuart Hodge. I'm going to do it in English, not in Scottish. Settling league titles on the back of a cigarette packet is a nonsense and a disgrace. I'm glad Stuart Webber is pushing clubs down south to ensure that they don't do anything as ridiculous as settling a league before it's properly won. I'm embarrassed for Scottish football, and the decision ensures a permanent asterisk and thus a blot in history. Celtic would have won the title, and Hearts may have gone down, but this is an absolute joke, and sporting integrity has been completely compromised.
There we go. Suitably on the fence from Stu, as usual.
Yes, yeah. I mean, he's not well at the moment, as we should say, but glad he got enough bile out from his stomach to release that particular statement.
It was like the behind closed doors version of a Hodge spot, wasn't it? I got, Ben, you did a great job, but it wasn't quite as good as the real thing.
I just can't bring myself to speak that passionately. I tried sort of faux passion there, but that was.
He is inimitable, isn't he?
Yeah,
measured tones. In the words of Mickey Quinn, folks pass.
I do. On a more sort of toned back level, I do agree with him. I think you should, wherever possible, try and finish a football season by playing football.
That's what they're trying to do. That is what they're trying to do.